At IMS, we are passionate about serving you. The purpose of InTouch is a result of that passion. The IMS customer service model is unlike any other contractor you have ever experienced. Our mission is simple: be the best. We are not just in the service business, we are in the business of serving. Our objective is to help make lives easier and better for our teams, their families, our service partners, our community, and you, our valued customer. We believe the greatest business strategy ever developed is to serve you the way we want to be served. InTouch is an expression of our team's passion to give back to our clients in an extraordinary and unbelievable way. We understand your needs as a business owner, manager, and leader, and offer you the knowledge necessary for your business to grow in a changing business environment. Through InTouch, you will discover new ways to remain competitive, to be able to apply real-time solutions to next-day challenges and identify unique approaches that can enhance your business's practices and profitability. We engage experienced business leaders and top executives to discuss new ways of doing business, leading to relevant and timely solutions that they have used in their own businesses. Thank you for joining and getting a taste of our service culture, our passion to deliver excellence and exceptional value to you and to your business. And above all, remember, this is why we do what we do.
Our mission is simple.
Without exception, our commitment is simply to be the best service provider our customer has.
Serving with integrity,
commitment, determination, and innovation,
while adding real value and making a reasonable profit.
That's who we are at IMS.
Well, thank you very much, Roy. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Jen. I just really inspired when I heard about this series, and I heard about the idea that, you know, what Roy wanted to do is take the depth of culture and value that happens every day with customers in the business relationship you have, and build further relationship and actually just add value and share things that he's excited about. And that just inspired me and got me really excited. So I'm really happy to be here and talk to you all today. Let's walk through what we're going to do. I'm going to give you a little bit about me. As Roy said, a little brief introduction. This was the very specific request, is that you walk away today with something you can use immediately. They said tomorrow morning. I said, what about if we can give them something they can use this afternoon? And Rick said that was okay. And I said, what if I gave two things, not just one, that you could use this afternoon? And he said, that's even better. So that's what we're going to do today. Specifically talking about, everybody here works with other human beings, is that right? So you're all completely deficient in your ability to be successful. And so what I want to give you is some tools and some ways in which you can get the most out of the people you work with, and then acknowledge that there are just some specific challenges you're going to face when you interact with other people. And I'm going to give you the anatomy of that. We'll give a whole dynamics on how that all works, and you'll have some tools on how to approach some situations differently. So the part about me. So SureLaw is why I think we're a perfect match to be here and represent IMS. IMS is intent to improve the lives that people work with. Ours is to change people's lives. We do that through business. We are a coaching organization. We coach with clients, businesses your size all around the world. We operate in 11 countries. And we operate on the principle that everybody wants to be more successful in their business. And so we deliver those three outcomes. Those are typically the three reasons why people would go into business in the first place. Things you're trying to achieve on a daily basis. You want to make more money, you want to have more time, and you want to create more value in your business. So the first two are more on the energetic side. It takes a lot to make more money. It takes a lot to make more time. And so we do a lot of work. That's a typical consulting offer and coaching offer. We spend a lot of, one of the things that really differentiates us is our ability to generate more value inside of a company. So how do you make the business work for you? And that's all about looking at your business at a set of assets, and how do you grow the value of those assets, which when you're busy day to day trying to manage the demands of your business and your clients, sometimes it's hard to think forward like that. So that's one of the things that we primarily bring. The outcome of all this, which is why people do it in the first place, is they ultimately want more freedom, they want to have more fun, and they want to have more control. And that's what our tagline is love business. It's very important to us that you love what you're doing. And we want to be your partners in that. So let's jump into, just right into it. I'm going to say we're going to give you some tools, some things you're going to work with immediately. So one of the precepts that I operate on is that business is relatively simple and people are relatively complicated. And when you have to work with those together, we need simple tools. And so at least the business side of thing, all we try to do is simplify it. We take the complication out of business. And this could potentially change your life, this one assessment tool. So when people do things like performance reviews or postmortems or things in analyzing how things went, we typically do that over a long period of time, maybe over the course of a project, a quarter, a year even. This is a tool that you can use every day in every meeting, and it can take you about 5 minutes. And it's a way to constantly assess how you're doing according to that which you said you wanted to do, that which is important to you. So at any time you're struggling, you don't know what to do next, pull out a piece of paper, turn it landscape, draw a 3-column T-bar, and write working, not working, and missing. So let's walk through the mechanics of this. So when you go and you list things, under the column of working, you want to list the things that you're doing that get you what you want. Okay? When you look at what's not working, list things that aren't getting you what you want. And then the last column is things that would get you what you want if you were doing them. So this is just a non-judgmental assessment of where you are at any moment in time. So the first thing you need to do is lose any judgment around why you would have things in your not working column. All right? So you're always going to be doing things that aren't working. Why do you do those? So if you judge yourself for doing those, you're not going to complete this exercise very well. But if you realize that everything that you're doing that's not working had a former career when it was working, and you just haven't noticed it's not working anymore. Or you have noticed, but you keep doing it because it's a habit. So this is why we just put it down in a column called not working, and now you can start relating to it like it's not working. So another way of saying this, and this is the tie-in to the next tool I'm going to share with you, is that the things that you're doing in the working column will lead you to greater prosperity. The things that you're doing in the not working column are going to lead you to greater poverty. And I'm using those two words and creating them as the opposite directions that you can go in your business that are going to lead to a potential outcome. Poverty leads you more to the goals that you've set. Poverty leads you away from those. Missing would also lead you to greater prosperity. So if you can conduct that assessment at any time, then what do you do with it? Again, keep it really simple. If it's working, keep doing it. If it's not working, stop doing it. It's as simple as that. And when you stop doing things that aren't working, you create additional space capacity to start doing things you're not doing that would work. This is a minute-by-minute, hour-by-hour, day-by-day assessment that can keep you on track toward achieving the goal. So does anybody want to do a quick little 1-minute exercise with me? And the answer is yes. Okay. Get out a piece of paper. So we're not going to worry too much right now about what's working or what's missing. Take out a piece of paper, and these would be just top of your mind. List out 2 to 3 things that keep you up at night, that you want to just declare publicly. You just want to put it down on paper. This is no longer working. Every time I do this exercise, the first thing I write down is email. Right? So just what's not working and give it a context. And so you could start putting into a place. So list down, when you think about your work, your business, list out a few things that aren't working. And if you can't come up with any, then you're the next speaker. Now, if there's one thing you could do this afternoon when you get back to your desk, create a plan for one of those. What are you going to do to stop doing that? Whatever that is. So I'm going to move on to a potential list of things you may have written down. So I talk to business owners every day, and I talk to business executive teams and managers. And these are some pretty common things that aren't working right now, the state of our economy, the state of business, et cetera. Is anybody experiencing not enough resources? Is anybody experiencing working inefficiently? Is anybody experiencing being unproductive, having challenges around building the proper teamwork, having challenges around communicating, having challenges around low morale? Any of that stuff make it on your list? Great. There's one thing I can't help you with today. It's not I can't help you with that. But what I can talk about the rest of the day is actually how some real practical tools for addressing some of this. Actually really making tangible, practical changes in your business today and tomorrow and every day moving forward. And I'm going to give you those tools. Would that be interesting? Would that be useful? Okay. Great. So the framework prosperity tool number 2 that I want to share with you is called Market Force. Now, has anybody ever experienced a Myers-Briggs or a DISC assessment? Raise your hand if do you know what I'm talking about? Okay. If you know that, then this is going to be easy to understand. It's essentially a 4-component assessment of your tendency to how you behave in a business environment. All right? So the primary difference that I love about Market Force than any of the other ones that I've played with is this is built for business, and it doesn't matter what yours is, in a sense. Like all the other ones, DISC and Myers-Briggs, all that self-awareness, self-actualization, all it cares about is what yours is. This says that's the foundational first step to finding value. You have to know what yours is, but the most important part is to understand what other people's are, and more importantly, what are the essential elements in any business strategy to make it work. And there's 4. And you can't run a successful business strategy without having all 4 of these. And there's a particular pattern, a path, that when you follow it, it leads to prosperity. So this is pretty interesting. You've got this framework that tells you the 4 key elements in order to be successful and how, in what order to utilize them. That's pretty cool, and that's what I want to share with you. So let's walk through the framework. It's 4 areas. One's called control, one's called influence, one called power, and one called authority. Let's not think about this in terms of people, but let's think about it in terms of the action that's required. So ideas start at the control space. Control generates a new possibility. We should open a new office, right? Let's roll out a new product. Let's conduct a client survey. Everything starts with a suggestion, an idea, and that starts in the control space. And in order to move that idea into any sort of practicality, we have to get some support and buy-in to that's a good idea, and that's moving into influence. Right? So then you take your idea and start influencing and start building conversations, start building excitement around it. Now that you've got a force of people that are support of the generation of the idea, you move into the power. And the power is where you create structure and action. You start to move it into reality. And then you move into the authority stage, which is now analyzing how it's going. What's working, what's not working, what's missing. The tool that I just gave you is an analysis tool. Right? And so when you evaluate how it's going, it'll tell you what the next idea is. Then you move into control. And so the path moves like that. And it's a cycle. Now the beauty of this, there's no hierarchy. There technically is no starting point. There's no leader, although it tends to, inception tends to start up at control. It doesn't have to. It's that this is the ecosystem of prosperity in your business. Have all these elements, put them in this order, and your chances of success massively improve. Now, here's the interesting part of this. There's a caveat. Do all the right things in the wrong order, and it leads to poverty. That each successive step counteracts the value of the previous one, and interestingly, this is why I say people are complicated. This is the way we would naturally want to do it. Even though we know the other way leads to prosperity, this is our tendency. So that's what we're going to have to overcome. So I'm going to walk through that. So let's take it out of the actions and move it into the individual so you can start to see how you can form a team around it. So we move in this way. The nickname, kind of the the personality type for each of these. You have, at control, you have the person who plays the director role. When you move into influence, you have the person who plays the facilitator role. The power is the builder, and the authority is the analyzer. Right? So this is starting to create some identity around it. If we want to put it in terms of typical roles, now this is stereotype. This is not, if you're not this style in this role, it's not like you're going to be successful. But if you're just in the ability to want to learn a little more, typically a good control person plays the CEO. An influence person is more on the biz dev side. The power person is a really good COO, and the authority is a CFO. That make sense? Okay, so let's walk through some of the interesting aspects of this. You can divide these in different ways. So if you look at those labels, those titles, it breaks like this. Control and authority people tend to be more thought-oriented. Influence and power people tend to be more action-oriented. Control and influence people tend to be more forward-thinking, offense, creational. Authority and power are more preservation, defense. So you can start to see, in a sports analogy, you can start to see how your lines start to line up and the skills need to be. And so every team needs to have all of these covered. And so the beauty of this framework is it really adds value and depth and meaning to each of these roles and each of the ways in which they contribute. So let's look at your style as we start to make it about self. Okay, so here's the thing. You use all 4 of these. Is there anybody who's ever run your own business where you're the only person doing it, or you're the only one running a department or a job or anything like that? Right? You have to do all of these. Right? You fall apart in any of these, what happens to your business? Right? So you start to real quickly understand where you have more skills and where you have less skills, where stuff energizes you and what stuff de-energizes you. So you start to, as you build out your plan, create space for other people, you start to realize where the opportunity is. So here's the interesting thing about knowing what your primary style is. How often in a day-to-day business situation do you feel like your life is being threatened? Very rarely in most of our line of work. And yet you have this part of you that feels threatened all the time. Right? It's someone tells you you didn't do a good job, or you're running late on a project. You start, when the stress starts rising, you start behaving in a particular way. You start responding. And we call that your survival strategy, and it's how you're wired. And this started a long, long, long time ago. This was an inception of your youth, and it's a particular strategy you've carried out through your whole life, and it's added a lot of success, and you're a little bit at the effect of it. You kind of act that way when the situation arises, and it's not a choice thing. So what's important to know is if you're going to be put in a stressful situation, don't you want to be in a job where your natural response is helpful in doing your job? Because when everything's okay, it doesn't really matter. You can play them all. But when it gets stressful, we want to make sure you're in the right seat. And that right seat is I'm going to respond in a particular way. So let's talk about not fictitious threats, but actual threats. So actually under pressure, you and your team are out on a boat, out on the bay. It's a lovely day. And then it starts to sink. And it's sinking fast. That sounds like actual pressure. That sounds like actual threat of life, doesn't it? How will you respond? What will be your natural way you respond to the threat? And let's walk through 4 particular ways you can do that, and that'll overlay onto market force. Number 1. Are you the guy that's going to jump up and just start barking orders? All right, we're in a situation. You, grab this, run around. We can't do that, no time. Are you going to just naturally do that? You're not thinking about it. It's coming out of you. You're probably more of a control person, right? And the way it looks like it is you're being very dictatorial. You're dictating what's going to happen. Okay, another option. I got to get busy. I got to do things. I got to do it. You know, like the classic rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, right? This is a power person. Power people like to be in action. Doesn't matter what they're in action about. If I'm in action, I feel good. So it's helpful to have a control person telling the power person what to do. Right? It starts to work very well. Then you've got people who need to think it out a little while. Right? They're going to analyze. They're going to play the authority. And so what they tend to do is that sort of hibernate until I know what to do. And then you've got the influence people who are like, see ya, I'm going to go swim for help. Right? Sound like anyone you know, Gary? because I can't tolerate it here, right? I'm not going to hibernate. I don't know what to do. I need to get out of it, right? And it's sort of a survival. And so we all just act that way. It's in us. So you can start to see yourself in a little bit. That's why it's helpful to push it out of a business context and put it into a human context. I'm going to actually put it into an animal context to give you another way of look at this. So animals are much more susceptible to their environment. And when their environment changes, like when it becomes winter, or there's drought, or there's rain, or there's floods, they have to adapt. Now, how those animals adapt is very much aligned with this. So for instance, a beaver doesn't like his environment. He starts to change it, chops down trees, builds dams, puts muds and rock, and literally changes the way water flows and falls. And there's this whole madness to it because the beaver realizes, I don't like my environment, I'm going to change it. I can dictate, right? So that's the beaver, that's control. Influence. I don't like it, I'm out of here, right? It's cold, I'm flying to New Mexico, right? Buffalo. I'm just going to get through this. I'm going to tolerate this. It'll be fine. At some point, it won't be snowing anymore. But I'm going to kind of pretend it's not. Right? And the last one here is the bear. It's winter. I'll see you in spring. Right? So now what's helpful is to understand the context that each of these carries that drives his behavior. So context for a dictate is for the control is you want certainty is paramount. I need to know what's real, what's not. I need to know what I control and what I can't control. That is the primary driver that keeps controls going. Influence needs freedom. As soon as anything comes down and starts to feel like you're taking my freedom away, I'm going to run away from it. Right? So powers need stability. They need to know that this is going to go in a certain way and it needs to be stable. And then security is so important to it. I need to feel safe. And when it's not safe, I'm going to pretend I'm just going to go somewhere else. I'm going to go internal. So you can see that the hibernate and migrate are kind of flip sides of the same coin, and the dictate and the tolerate are flip sides of the same coin. And you start to see the natural relationships that form on this. Okay. Helpful now to start understanding the roles in terms of what do people pay attention to. So this is where you can start identifying other people. So control people are focused on the future. Every conversation isn't about now or what happened. It's always about where we're going and what's in the future, right? Big visions, always talking about it. Influence people, and then the natural pairing is down with power. So power people are naturally present-oriented, right? Tell me about your visions all day long, right? Answering the question, where are we going? I need to know, what are we doing? Right? What's the first step? Right? I get what you're talking about. It's so far out. And you can see how the control without the power is just full of hot air. Right? And the power without the control, just kind of lost. I don't know what to do. And so that's why it's a nice combination. Now let's go across axis. Influence people. Live in fantasy. Always concerned with what's possible. And the authority people live in reality, always concerned with what's provable. Same sort of thing. And with one without the other, you're stuck. You're never getting anywhere. So this is why when you link all these together, it creates path to prosperity. This is a fascinating one. So in language, so what does yes mean and what does no mean? Right? We all think we know what it means when someone says yes and someone says no. But based on where you sit in this, you have a different perspective about yes or no, and I'm going to overlay it here. So future-oriented people, yes means maybe, no means no. Why is that? Right? Because if I say no, guess what? We're not going to do it. I'm not going to be the person who moves it forward to reality, so if I declare it a no now, it will always be a no. Now, if I say yes about the future, what does that mean to you? Does that mean we're going to get there and we're going to actually do that? Maybe. I don't know. People who live in the control space create realities that don't exist, and sometimes you achieve them and sometimes you don't. But it's hard when someone says yes and it turns into a maybe. It's kind of hard to trust them, but it's helpful to know where they come from and why it sounds like that. Okay, fantasy people. Yes equals a maybe and no equals a maybe. Right? Because everything is more in the space of possibility. Right? So it's kind of hard to know, especially when over here at power, a yes means yes and a no means no. Now, the authority people, yes means yes, but no means maybe, because their tendency is to want to go to the negative first and disprove things first. Now, sometimes later they go, I was wrong. So maybe the no turns into a maybe, but the yes is always a yes. And so it's just, you go, how do we even communicate with each other? How is that even possible that we're able to be productive at all when we all have completely different relationships with basic language like yes and no? So this is kind of a critical thing to start to realize how this all comes together. So let's talk about liabilities. So everybody has a strength. We've gone through this. Let's talk about the liabilities now. Each one of these will be an example of what each style confuses with accomplishment. Okay? Control people confuse big ideas with accomplishing something. Came up with 5 ideas today. What a great day. Tomorrow I'm going to come up with 5 more. Right? Influence people confuse relationships with accomplishing something. I have a woman who runs biz dev in my business, and I talk to her on a regular basis. And this is pretty much how the conversation goes. Hey, how did your day go today? Oh, fantastic. Oh, I had the greatest meetings. I got 3 deals across the line today. And I go, wow, that's pretty fantastic. Have you dropped that into our invoicing system so that we can send out the bills? And she responds with, well, I mean, they're not ready to bill yet. I mean, it's not. And I go, what does across the line mean to you? Right? Because it's the relationship that is the value. And you have to understand that. Okay, what do power people confuse with accomplishment? Being busy. They're the busiest people you know. They're always busy. They've always got too much stuff to do because that is accomplishment to them. And the authority people, it's about perfection. Right? If I could get it just perfect, that's an accomplishment. So you realize these are the liabilities, so what's helpful is how do we help each other get through, accentuate the strengths and limit the impact of the liability. So how do you pull that together and build a winning team? Okay, the first thing you need to understand is that there's a couple of rules. Now, this is a rule that IMS lives by, the golden rule. Does everybody know the golden rule? What is the golden rule?
Serve others like you want to be served.
There you go. Treat others how you want to be treated. Ready for the platinum rule? Because this is how you build a team. Platinum rule is treat others how they want to be treated. We assume that everybody wants to be treated like us. We'll be right about a quarter of the time. And you'll miss it about 3/4 of the time. And so the importance here is to understand how other people want to be treated and treat them like that. So I'll give you an example. Oh, so the first thing you need to do is you need to be able to pick people out quickly, right? So if you're going to treat people how they want to be treated, you have to know which style they are. So rather than going, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you fill out this online assessment and I'll pay for it, and then I want to find out what it is. You know, when you meet somebody, that's probably not an effective way to get to know who they are. And so I'm going to give you some quick tools to be able to do this. So the other thing I love about Market Force is you can use it immediately. You don't need to take a tool, an assessment, even though there is one. So you walk into a meeting. How do you know who's the control, who's the influence, who's the authority, and who's the power? Because knowing that tells you how you treat them makes a big difference. So you walk in, the first person you're going to notice in the room is the influence. Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. I'm John. Welcome. Can I get you a cup of coffee? Right? That's just how they're going to interact with you because relationships are really important. That's the role they play. Next person you're going to notice is the one sitting at the table going, all right, we got some work here to do. That's the control. Right? Always in that position. Never in the middle of the table, like 2/3 down, always at the end. Right? Then you're going to notice, you're going to look around, you talk to that person, and then you find a bunch of people who are reading all the information and making sure they know exactly what it is we're going to cover at the meeting and are really, really prepared. That's the authority people. Right? Reading the agenda at the table before the meeting. And then the meeting doesn't start until the energy busts into the door. Sorry, I'm late. Paper's over here. That's the power person. And you go, have you ever been in a meeting where those 4 people are there? Instantly you know they are, and you start to understand their concerns. So if we're talking about building a team, one of the key elements of team building is trust. Is that accurate? Without trust, it's kind of hard to have a team. Do you know that people build trust differently based on the style they are? And if you don't know what style they are, and you try to build it in the wrong order, it's gonna backfire on you. Okay, so 2 essential elements to trust. What are they? If you trust someone, what are you trusting? Anyone?
They're honest.
Yeah. So something about their character you're evaluating. What else?
They'll come through.
Yeah. Right. So their skill. Right? So those are kind of 2 components of trust, right? there's the competency, which is can they do it? And then there's kind of the likability. Do I enjoy you? You know, you have the right character or something along those lines. That when you go and you say, I trust somebody because you have checks in both of those boxes. But depending on your style, you build them in different orders. Interestingly, if you're control or authority, you evaluate people first on competency. And then you decide whether or not you like them. Now, if you're an influencer or a power person, the first thing you do is you figure out whether you like a person, and then you find out if they're capable. So how does this work in a practical way? Get on the phone with somebody, and let's say you're a control or authority, and it's Monday morning, right? And you're going time to work. And then you get on the phone with an influence person, and what do they want to talk about? How's your weekend? What's that? What'd you do? Let me tell you what I did. And you're going, I don't care. I need to get some stuff done. Now, what's interesting about those people, as soon as you have that stuff done and we know what we're going to do and we get our plan for the week, the next thing they go is, hey, how was your weekend? Right? They do it on the back end. Right? So which one are you? You're which one first? You're business first, people second. Right? So we know instantly, if you knew this about a person and you got them on the phone, you knew which conversation to have first to build trust. Because trust isn't something you just build and then you just put it on a shelf. You reinforce it in every interaction. So what's interesting is if you're on this side of the spectrum and you're always in a relationship with somebody on that side of the spectrum, you get to decide which one do we want to do first. Because if you don't have a conversation about it, you're always going to be at odds and every conversation is going to start off clunky. So if all you did was work that out, every conversation would get a lot smoother. Right? So real key fundamental things. Getting any takeaways yet? Any things you can use immediately? Okay. Rick, we're fitting the bill there? Okay. So I said this is the path that leads to prosperity. Okay. Now I'm going to show you some of the inherent struggles to doing that because that makes sense. Doesn't need a lot of influencing. Yeah, Roy.
Back to that last one. That works at home, doesn't it?
This is, while it is built in a business context, we are talking about people.
Right? So you come home from work and you're tired, you don't want to talk about work, and the wife wants to know everything that happened that day. You have to balance that, and that's kind of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Is Robin here?
No, she's not.
Yeah. What's interesting, as I said before, that the natural pairs, the natural strongest relationships, the opposites attract, really are on the axes. And so it's interesting, most relationships, most personal relationships are that pairing, the ones that work. So you find that whatever yours is, if your relationship's going really well, the other is probably in the other end of the axis from you. Because those relationships work well. If you get, you work out the dynamics on, I need you to tell me how your work today was from a feeling space, that sort of thing. That's what I want to know. And so having the language and having the framework helps drive the interactions. Okay, so we know that this works in this direction, easy to follow. Here's the problem. The biggest barrier to your prosperity is your inherent inability to move in that direction. So even though we say, oh yeah, you come up with the idea, and then you influence some support around it, then you build a structure, and then you analyze how it went, and then refine the idea and keep moving that, even though that makes logical sense, you have a natural inclination to not want to go in that direction. So here's the things that will get in the way. So this is the struggle, principle number one. Here's the remedy. You've got to know when you're done with your part. So when you play a particular role on a team, you have a particular set of responsibilities, you have to realize the moment at which you stop adding value and you need to hand it off. You pass the ball. This is what very successful teams do very well. The key barrier is your inability to hand it off in the context of the person you're handing it off to. You ever watch a relay race? Everything's won and lost in the pass of the baton. And it's the person's responsibility who's handing it off to put it in the hand of the person who's running. That is your responsibility. When you pass off responsibility, it's to change context, because when I operate in an influence space, I'm not thinking about power. But in order to hand it off, I have to think about what does a power need right now and provide that along with the handoff. So this is the remedy. Not easy to do, but at least you know what to look at. Okay, here's the brute force again, leads to poverty. We know we don't want to do it in this direction, so why do we? Here's the struggle. The style that's located counterclockwise to your primary is usually your second most comfortable one. So you were built, your survival strategy is built to have you run counterclockwise. So let's go back to that slide. No. And talk about what happens here. So let's start at anywhere. It doesn't really matter, right? So I'm a control person, and I've got these ideas, and I'm trying to influence people, and it's not working. So what do? I go backwards. I go brute force, and I go back, and I try to prove that I'm right by showing you all the numbers and the stats I did that shows you why it's a good idea. Now, as opposed to moving that way, which is just influence people to try it and get support of it, build a structure, and then analyze it, which would be market force, I go backwards. Right? So if I'm an authority person and things aren't going the way I want, which is, I'm kind of can be the doom and gloom guy and no one's listening to me, what I'd say, the numbers don't speak for themselves. I need to go back and I need to build some better structures to communicate that. Right? Which is just, you don't need more structures to prove your point. The point just needs to be, decided upon. So you move backwards into power. Now power, I'm working, and then it's not getting me the results that I want. So what I do is I go into influence mode, get a bunch of people together who agree with me, and then I complain. Yeah? And then when influence people are out and they feel like their freedom's being taken away, and I don't like to be told what to do, I'm just going to try to control the thing. So you can just see the sort of natural response mechanism is brute force direction. So here's the struggle I said is and it's going to be I don't know what the numbers exactly are, but it's in about the 80% range that whatever you test for as your primary, your second will probably be the one that's brute force direction from you. So you have an inherent problem to overcome in and of yourself before you can even do this. So the remedy is this. You have to realize that you have a survival strategy at play, and your survival strategy was designed to help you survive, not thrive. So when we say overcome your survival strategy, it's notice that I'm not dying right now, and I want to add more value. And that's the commitment to bringing greater prosperity. Having the language, having the framework, believe me, I'm super excited about this. I use this on a regular basis inside my own teams with my clients. It's just one of the most fundamental things that creates the real conversations of what's going on. Okay, so this is the game. This is the takeaway. I'm putting it dynamic because maybe this can somehow get your brain to lock this image in. If you stare at it a long time and then you close your eyes, you can see it in your brain sort of thing. This is the game we're trying to play. Okay, so the key points. Teams need all the styles. Moving clockwise creates prosperity. Your ability to manage the transitions, that's the handoffs between the styles, is the greatest determinant of your success. This is where your language, this is where your agreements, this is where your culture lives. All that stuff is what you pour into the arrows in between all the styles. And your survival strategy is not designed to keep you alive. Yeah?
What happens when you have a smaller group and you don't have all those extra pieces?
You still, that's why I broke them into two things. One's actions and one people. You can play, you have and you will always play different roles. You just need to know which context you're playing in when you're playing it. So if I do three of things, so for instance, my styles are kind of called the northern hemisphere. So my primary is a control, then it's an influence, then it's an authority. So I just need to be aware that I need to move in the market force direction. If I want to get to authority, I actually have to go through influence to power in order to get to authority. Otherwise, I'm going brute force, I'm going backwards. And I think I'm doing it in a control context, but I'm not. And so it's the awareness of it. And you can do it all by yourself. Two people in a team can play different roles, but you need to have those agreements. Great question. Okay, I want to share with you that there's a mobile app. So I'm going to run through this. So this is really cool, how you can use it on a daily basis. The name is A Priori. That's the company that owns this technology. We're a joint venture partner with them. I'm going to send out to the group, I'll send out some follow-up information. I'll send out some fact sheets on each of the different styles, a cheat sheet on all the different styles and what drives them, and you can see compare and contrast. It's really cool. And also, if you're interested, I can get you a link to the mobile app. So let me just walk you through how this works. So it's pretty simple. Learn my style, learn all styles, and Prosperity Accelerator. Helps you learn your own style, so you can take it on. It tells you what your style is. It tells you, okay, I'm influenced, so it's a little bit high-level stuff about it. Shows you what all the different aspects. So this is about you learning yourself. You can kind of click on your perspective, what's important to you. Right? This is the self-awareness part. The value is to learn all styles, so it's got, you know, a database information of all the different styles that are there. And then this is the cool part, the Prosperity Accelerator. So if you're in the game of making prosperity, you can have all the contact people in your address book and have their style associated with it. So what happens when you go to call them, if you're in any situation, you kind of, here's add a person, pick a contact, add their style. If I don't, you know, if I know what their style is, I can put it. If I don't know what their style is, I can do help me decide and walk me through a set of questions, and it'll sort of tell me, you know, what the style is. So I can, it can associate it. So now that I have that, let's see, I will go and figure out what I want to know about this person. So if their primary power, what's their perspective going to be? How do I make a strong first impression? I click on all this stuff. First impression, how to talk to them, how to produce trust. So you can do all the work before you interact with somebody. This is the platinum rule in action. Let's see. I've been having a breakdown with them. What's their common complaint? What's their emotion in a breakdown? What's their primary trust? The more you build awareness around this, the more you can start to predict behavior, and you can actually do something to create greater prosperity. I think it's pretty cool. So here's what you have to do. Here's what I'll do. Here's what you have to do. Okay, so commit to practicing anything that you got out of today. Take it back. That's the commitment that Roy and Rick have brought forth here, is that they're going to give you something that's tangible, practical, usable immediately, so do something with it. I will email out the links. So rather than me printing out a half a tree's worth of stuff, I'll email it to you, and you can have it, and then you can review it later. Contact me with any questions or requests. So if you find this stuff valuable and you want to apply it more, call me up. I'll answer any question you want. There's my contact information. It'll also be in my email. So let's do a little bit of practicing on this evaluation tool. So rather than just talk about it in theory, we're going to hand out an evaluation form for this. But I just wanted, for the sake of this, on another sheet of paper, can you write down one thing that worked about this program for you today, one thing that didn't work, and one thing that you felt was missing? So this is all good feedback for our hosts, so they can continue to assess and add value to the program. So can you spend a minute doing that for me, please? So who wants to share one thing on your list that worked for you out of this today? Yeah.
It was very relatable.
Relatable? And tell me about that.
As you're going through them, I'm looking at the entire team going, oh, there's a power, there's the influence. I
Right.
was very able to identify them just from the way it was presented.
Cool. And what's yours?
Oh, I am the influence.
Okay. Great. And can you start to see some of the breakdowns and why they occur? And okay. And you feel like you have
We're
some...
going counterclockwise.
There you go. There you go. It's just that simple, right? You just didn't have a map. Now you have a map. Okay, one more person. Something that was working, that worked out of today.
Immediate applicability both to the business life and to the home life.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah, Michael's my biggest fan about all this. He just drinks it in. Okay, who's got a not working? What didn't work? What would you like to see different? Yeah.
The app doesn't work for the Droid.
Doesn't work for the Droid. That's absolutely right. It is not working for the Droid. Wow. It is an I ... service. Absolutely.
His iPhone was missing.
Okay, so other than an app for the Droid, what else is missing out of today? One thing that's missing. What would you like to have seen? Yeah.
I'd like to see you have printouts. I'd like to spend more time listening to you and whatnot than sitting here trying to take notes.
Okay. Great. So would it be helpful for me to send the slide deck as well? Would you like that?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll send you the slide deck. I'll send you some cheat sheets around each of the styles and an overall styles quick reference guide, and then also a link to the app. Okay, excellent. So go bring more prosperity to your teams. Questions? Yeah,
We have
Gary.
a home-based business.
Yeah.
Okay, so Sharice is definitely the control person.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Oh, what other way is there?
Exactly.
Yeah.
As you should.
So we know, Gary, your primary is influence.
Yeah, I'm definitely the influence. Okay, she's the control.
Right.
And so I think what it's interesting with us, because we're working with this in the business context, and as Roy said, within our family context
Right.
as well.
Right.
Because we work side by side. So I think it would be great if we could see a little bit more on the relational end as far as what happens at home, because there's going to be people that work. I mean, home-based business is huge.
Yeah.
And like Roy said, like a lot of the things that you talk about, your personality-wise, it's applicable at home as well. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even more applicable, because that's the where you come from when you go do your job.
Yeah, thanks to you, it's going to be a real quiet drive.
So the question is, who does the power and authority between the two of you?
She has both of them.
Yeah. So you really do have that role, and
I was going to say, but it will be a quiet drive now.
I can't imagine anything quiet related to Gary Zaleski. Not on his list of capabilities.
No,
yeah.
It's an
Great.
awesome presentation.
Cool. Awesome. Questions, clarifications, feedback. All right. Hi.
In your definitions and trying to decide who's what, I mean, I thought I had myself pegged, and then you would say something else about that
Right.
role, and I'd be like, oh, I'm so not that.
Right.
So maybe a little bit of.
Yeah, so let's go back to that. You are all four. If you took an assessment, you would have numbers ranging from 1 to 10 across all four of those. The ones you scored the highest on would be your primary style. It's possible that you could have a 7-7 on something, in which, and then really low, like a 4-3. The assessment has some tiebreaker questions that could tell you which ones you're dominant, but you realize that you're probably more of a combination of them, and you'll take on different characteristics. And in different situations, you'll respond differently. That's why I say put yourself out on a boat and it's sinking. Which one of those are you likely going to act like is probably your primary. So which one on the boat? Is it the barking orders? Is it the getting busy? Is it the let me think? Or is it I'm going to go swim for help?
See, that was a tough one.
Yeah. Which ones?
Doing a couple things.
Which ones?
Being busy.
Being busy, so power.
Okay.
Barking orders.
I could see, doing that, but I could also see me jumping off going, okay,
Yeah.
You never said we were swimming for help. You just said we were leaving.
Yeah, well, they say they're swimming for help, but we know. Hopefully it will come, but we don't. Truthfully, we know why they're leaving. You don't know me, right? Yeah. So there's a really good, if you really want to drive depth, there's a really good online indicator that's not up yet. So the app. Yeah, there's an actual indicator we're building. It's online, and I don't think it's going live till January. So, but you could do the app, and the app could tell you. And if you really want to know, there's a hand thing that I can help you with as well. So, but it's good, and that's truthfully great that you have of these multiples, because prosperity comes by doing a lot of these things. But for you, it's to make sure you're doing them in the right order. That makes a difference. Great. Other.
I just thought that was really great way you presented that, because it has a tremendous relationship to the DISC evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
Only it's a lot easier to use the DISC.
Yeah, and it's like, and if you don't use it, then it's useless. I mean, it's fun, self-actualization and all, but like applying it in a type of business environment to create a productive team is really the game. Every single one of us, regardless of our responsibility, is trying to achieve. So that's why I'm hugely fascinated by it. Why I want to share it with you. One more question, and then I can hand it back over. All right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
On the, if you're a small company, just, you know, Gary and his wife, or Craig, Shreese, I was going to say Celise, Shreese.
Don't say that.
Or Craig, you know, or if you're a team, a management team that has just a couple of people and you're missing one of those,
yeah,
you would have a tendency to find yourself, you know, pinging back and forth.
Yeah.
You're going the right direction, then you're missing this one, so you back up trying to cover that.
Uh-huh.
So how do you fill that in? Do you find somebody outside your team that you can bounce things through?
Perfect. So this is why I put this up here. You have to say what's not working is, let's call it power's missing. We have really good ideas, we know how to analyze them, but we're not sure how to build the structure to just get it done. That's where we always fall over. Not working. Right? You have to start by going, that's not working. Then the next question is, so what's missing? So what's missing is a person to do it. What's the strategy to get that person? Do we recruit him into our team? Is it a consultant? It's the awareness that something's missing and you're clear on what's not working that allows you to drive it towards prosperity. So it just helps you drive towards choices. Now, I don't care whether you're a very small business, very large businesses. They are all built the same, which is they're just people and they're teams of people, and prosperity happens when you get this right. You know, look at the military. It's very, very large and very complicated. It starts on basic size teams, and multiple teams form different other sizes and divisions and all those other things. It all comes down to the core foundation of working well inside of a team, then spreading that throughout an organization. So it doesn't matter whether it's small or large, but the important part is know what's not working and know what's missing, and orient yourself to fill those gaps.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Great.
Let's give him a hand.
All right.